Welcome guys to a new Albion Online series that I'm going to be planning on going through. What we are planning on doing is creating a new character and basically explaining all of the different types of content that any new player can do, and trying to explain every single aspect of the game. And obviously we're going to start by playing the tutorial. Always make sure you play the tutorial because it will explain a lot of different things about the game. And not only that, there are a few different things while you're in the tutorial that you can do that will also help you out at the beginning of the game. It will give you 3 days premium, which is so big. You can do so much with it. And not only that, you can also do something within the tutorial area where you purchase donkeys for 1 gold a piece. And then obviously you can sell them for about 3,000 to 6,000 silver each whenever you get into one of the cities. So let's get started. So now, just before you end up going finishing the tutorial, the quest that you'll end up getting is this one. And at the very end of it, it will say go to the pier. So obviously it will be telling you to go into the mountain fort and come inside of this area and kill 10 heretics. Then it'll tell you to start a fire around this area, start another fire up here, and then it will tell you to go into the pier. Do not go into the pier. What you will do at this point, because as soon as you go down past that gate, I'm sure you cannot come back. So what you'll do is you'll go back to the town during this quest. Obviously, once we're back to town, you'll see you would have accumulated a decent amount of silver, a couple of 100 silver. And what you'll do is you'll come to this lady right here, which is obviously the marketplace. You click on her and you'll see the mules are about 3 silver. Now this is going to be very rough until you get to that pier. Obviously you can hold up to 4 donkeys, which is around 20,000 silver, which is pretty decent for a brand new player, right? So obviously pick up 4 mules, and now as you can see, it's going to be very, very agonizing, very, very slow, but you want to make some silver. You know, that's the thing. If obviously you don't want to wait too long, you can always just get rid of 1 just to make it a bit easier. So obviously you just have the 4 donkeys overall, which should actually be more than enough to be able to get yourself a transport ox when you get into the first zone. So obviously we'll cut back to that, and we'll be back once we're in that starter zone. So now that we are here, we are talking to this guy. I'm going to quickly remove the camera for a second so you guys can see. So here, obviously, as we talk to this guy, we can end up spawning at multiple different cross areas, which are different parts of the world. Now, if you click M on your keyboard, you will see the Royal Continent just to the right. And now what each one of these cross areas are these areas. Now, these are starter zones, right, for each main city, which the 5 main cities are Martlock, Bridgewatch, Lyndhurst, Port Sterling, and Thetford. And obviously you have 1 in the center, which is Cardion, which makes it 6. But that one you don't really need to worry about. We're going to go and start over in Lyndhurst. Obviously each area will have different resources within and different tiers. If you click on each individual tile, you can see what resources will lie within these areas and what tier these actual resources will be. I recommend Lyndhurst because, as you can see, there are some desert area around here, which means you can also farm obviously you can farm obviously leather, cotton, ore, and then within the grassy areas you can farm wood, stone, and leather. Obviously each zone is pretty much the same. No matter where you go, there will always be somewhere that you can go to end up farming other resources, right? So it doesn't matter which area you start in, there'll always be a zone within these areas that you'll be able to farm just about any resource. We are going to go and start in the Lyndhurst area just for the hell of it. So now the first thing when you get off of the boat is click N on your keyboard, and you will see there are question marks and exclamation points. What these question mark is, obviously you'll speak to this guy just to complete. You'll accept, and then it'll tell you to go over to this guy over here. Now these are just additional quests once you've got off the tutorial island. Obviously we'll talk to this big ass guy. We'll click continue, and voila, we get the 3 days premium. And then if we wanted to, we can continue doing these little quests where you'll get little rewards Obviously, it explains what premium is and how do you get premium. Obviously, you'll get little like combat fame tomes and stuff, but you don't really want to bother doing them. They're very extensive and they take a lot of time. Now, the third thing I would recommend doing is coming over to this little chest here and just dumping all of your stuff in there, and then put one of the mules on. Obviously, put the set of gear back on that you want to be using. Equip that, and then just pick up these 3 mules and walk over to this north side. Now, if you click N on your keyboard, you can see just about every single crafting station within the area. Not only that, if you hover over these hammers, this golden hammer is just about in every single city, every single cross place, and that's the marketplace. This is the bank, and then this is even an expedition master where you can actually go talk to him and do some form of PvE content, which I'll be showing you guys very shortly. But for now, we're going to go to the marketplace, click sell, and you can actually sell the mules here for 2.25 silver. But obviously, if you click on this arrow here, you can actually see what people are trying to sell the item for via sell orders and what people are trying to buy it for buy orders. You can also look down below here and obviously have a look throughout the time period how much and how many of the things have sold, like how much people are paying for these sorts of things over the span of today. Now, obviously, there is a somewhat big difference if you do a sell order compared to a sell. So obviously, you'll probably do a sell order, and then obviously we can just drop that down a bit more. Let's just say 750. So 3,750 each, and we'll create a sell order. Now that will sit on there until people buy it, which it shouldn't take too long for people to buy. So what we ended up doing is just straight selling the mules for 2,251 each, so that way then we can get a decent amount of silver to begin with. And that's how, obviously, considering you brought the donkeys for 3 silver each, you're gonna gain like 2,250 each extra for them, which is pretty decent to get you started. Alrighty then, this is one thing I do want to go over that a lot of actually new players don't fully understand, and that is the Destiny board. It's a way to end up leveling up, seeing what level you are in armors, in weapons, in crafting, in your gathering, and there's a few things that I'll recommend, right? So the 2 main trees that you want to be looking at here, so this will be the center, right? Is this northern one here, and basically, as you can see, this is just any form of fame overall that you collect will end up unlocking different mounts and different capes that you can be using in bags. So obviously, the higher you go, the better tier mounts and bags and capes you can use. The other big one here is you come across to here, but then it keeps going at this diagonal level. Now, as you can see, it's called Reaver. This is another one, I like the one center going up the top, and that also shows how much damage you'll end up doing and how much defense you'll have towards specific creatures, for instance. So obviously, if you're doing a tier 3 dungeon with tier 3 mobs in, you want to be at least having the Journeyman Reaver. Obviously, if you're going to go kill tier 4 mobs, you want at least tier 4 Reaver, etc, etc. Obviously, then this goes all the way up, and it helps out so much, like especially when you get to the tier 6, tier 7, tier 8 mobs. As you can see, it drastically changes. This is like a huge one, obviously, like I says, for when you're doing PvE and leveling up. Now, all this left side here, right, is all of your combat. What are your combat levels, right? So you've, as you can see around here, obviously you'll need to, if you want to level up into any of these kinds of weapons, right, or offhand, you will need to level up one of these from the lower tree to be able to then unlock the chance to be able to use any bow. So obviously you'd have to level up the tier 3 bow. Same with spears, you'd have to level up obviously the spear, etc, etc. That will be the same with every tree. Like obviously if you wanted to do cloth, obviously there's where the cloth armor is. If you wanted to do like be a mage, like, you know, either healing or, so obviously this has healing, the holy staff, and it has fire staff, arcane, frost, etc. Obviously you guys can have a look at all the rest of the stuff. Obviously there's your leather, your kind of tanky ones, but if you was to go tank, I would recommend generally just the hammers and the maces. For tank, I would say that you'll generally wear leather or leather or cloth for axes, swords, crossbows, and whatnot. But generally, you'd want to go plate armor if you're running hammers or maces. Now, down on the southern side, you'll see that there's a different kind of tree, right? So this is all orange, right? This is like a greenish, like a yellowish greenish. Now this is to do with farming and to do with crafting foods. Now if you come down here, you can see potions, you can see foods, all the different tiers, and obviously all the different seeds. But this is generally only once you have 30 days premium, because that's when you get to unlock your island to then be able to start actually using this form of stuff and leveling it up. So generally we'll just forget about this for now. This blue line is about your gathering, right? So there's something you need to understand here. You've got something called mastery, right? So obviously here, every single level you get once you get to tier 4 on this one right here and any of these, right? So once you get that to level 1 from obviously the lower tree, you'll be able to unlock it. But this will have 1 out of 100. So if you continuously gather tier 4 materials, right, of any kind, you will then level up the mastery. And what each level will increase is bonus item power for the gear you're going to be wearing, allow you to wear increased item power within the specific tier 4 gear, and increase your gathering guild of tier 4 materials across the board. But the thing is, once you are able to use this tier 4 tool, right, and you start gathering tier 4, tier 3 resources, you will see that this one will start leveling up, and this is the one you want to get to tier 5. And then that will be the same once you know, don't use learning points to keep leveling these up. Only use learning points to level up the first level, right? As you can see from generally gathering, I'm almost leveled up to be able to use tier 2 tools. Once I am able to use tier 2 tools, I would recommend using all learning points that you have for once you hit this threshold to be able to use tier 3. Click that learn to then instantly be able to use tier 3, because this is like a threshold, right? So usually you'd need 2250 fame, but this is like 25% of the overall fame, right? And then that will be the same once you get to the threshold here, which is generally about 8,000, something like that. You'll hit the learn button, etc. on each one, all the way down to the bottom. Don't worry too much about the masteries within these tiers, because obviously you will level them up passively while you are gathering specific tiers. But this is the only thing that I would really recommend using learning points on, is gathering level up like to your next tier, and possibly refining. Maybe not so much on refining, because you can always buy the actual resources needed to power level your refining. It is exactly the same way as I explained this one. It doesn't matter about the 1 to 100. All it matters is about getting that first level to unlock tier 4. And then obviously once you get enough XP, you will then be able to go to tier 5, tier 6, tier 7, and then tier 8. Now, all on this right-hand side, as you can see, is all your crafting of tools, gathering gear, bags, demolition hammers. You don't really need to worry about demolition hammers. And then all on this right-hand side is going to be all your crafting of armors or weapons. Obviously, each if you do want to end up doing plate, broad, like any sort of swords, axes, maces, hammers, crossbows, shields, you would need to level up, craft a bunch of tier 3 in one of these specifically to be able to go down the tree. Then you'll be able to do tier 4. Then once you get this mastery up to level 10, you'll be able to then do level tier 5, then etc. as you can see. You'll need to go to the Hunter's Lodge to be able to do any leather armor, bows, spears, nature staff, which is the other healing staff, daggers, staffs like quarter staffs, and offhands. This is like, there's 2 different kinds of offhands. These are like cooldown reduction offhands and a damage buff. This one's like a damage buffing offhand. If you obviously want to, you'll need to go to the Mage Tower for any form of cloth armors, you know, and any form of like fire staff, ice staff, curse staff, and general like mage offhands that you'll use. This one's a really good offhand that you probably would be using during generally majority of PvP content, because as you can see, it gives you more max health. But anyway, enough of that. Obviously this is the tree. When you are leveling up gear, so say obviously you want to go into all this, all these weapons, for instance, maybe a bow, maybe a spear. Spears are very versatile. I would recommend them. Bows are pretty decent as well in any form of content. Daggers are hit and miss. They're more for solo content, I'd say, unless you're using claws, which are super good for ganking. And then obviously you've got fire staffs are pretty strong as well. Generally the wildfires just had a big buff. These are just my recommendations. Cursed, you got the one-hand curse that has a really powerful E that will pop any single target. You've also got the great curse, which is pretty decent if you have a bunch of CC. But to be honest, you could just go through all the weapons, go through all the armors, and just choose generally. Axes are really strong PvE weapons, but I wouldn't really recommend them too much for PvP. You've got the great axe, which decent in like 2v2, well, where you have at least 2 people or more content, because this E shreds. You got the battle axe, which is really good for solo content because the amount of lifesteal it gives you, and obviously then you got the bear paws. I'm going to explain what the actual weapons are, right? So as you can see, obviously you'll have to level up the using the weapons to end up unlocking the other skills and unlocking the other tiers by leveling up the mastery. Now all this here, because it says all this stuff here is the mastery, right, of everything. And on the outer ring is known as spec. Now what spec does for a specific weapon that you use and level up, you will gain a bonus to item power. This obviously, say you're specifically getting great X up, right? You'll gain a 0.2 bonus to all axes item powers, but you'll gain +2 spec bonus to item power for specifically a great X. So if there's any weapon that you really want to, you know, get stronger and be able to deal damage with more, you would use that weapon and fame farm a level up that specific weapon or that specific armor. Now what item power is, before we continue, is if I open up this and you pull this out, I have an average item power of 307 with a base average item power of 307. Now the average item power, as you can see, includes all bonuses from mastery or overcharge. We won't go into that right now. And all penalties from durability loss or regional item power caps. So what that means is obviously every single individual item, whether your armor and weapons, will have this item power, right? And as you get higher tier weapons or armors, this item power will increase. What this basically states is the strength of that gear, right? The higher item power you have on a weapon, the more damage or the more healing it will do. And then the higher tier, the higher item power you have on an armor piece, though, I'm not too sure whether it actually levels up, increases all of the armor and magic resist, but I do know that it increases the amount of max health you have from each armor piece. So obviously once you level that up, that's how that will go. Something I do want to talk about as well is the whole tier system of weapons, right? So let's just have a look at a great axe, for instance, right? You see how this is, that the base item power is going to be 700, right? And you'll have these abilities. You see here at the bottom though, you have 3 diamonds, right? This is what you'll use your runes, your souls, and your relics on, is upgrading these up in tiers. So what your runes do will upgrade a weapon from 4 to 4.1, and what that will increase is increase your item power by about 100, which if we have a look at tier 5 great axes, theirs is 810. Obviously due to the quality it will increase, because obviously you can get good, you can get outstanding, excellent, masterpiece, etc. But anyway, so as you can see, tier 4 to tier 5 is a 100 increase in item power, and tier 4 to 4.1, as you can see here, is 800, and you'll see the little notch. So runes get a weapon or armor piece from from the flat state to a 0.1 state, which increases it by 100. So this is basically the power of a tier 5 weapon or tier 5 armor if you did this to a tier 4 armor piece. Then obviously your souls will then get it up to tier 4.2, as we can see here, and that will increase it up to 900, and then it will make as you can see here, the difference in damage from your Q, this is, we'll just say from Q, right, is 167, right? So say if it was 0.1, it will only be 150 damage, and if it was a 4 flat, it would only be 138 damage. So as you can see, every single time you upgrade it via getting it up an extra tier, it will increase the damage of the weapon, and it will increase the armor and your health from armor pieces. So what I would recommend is when we go and do solo dungeons is you keep all of your runes, souls and relics, and what you will do as soon as you can is upgrade your armor piece, your weapon piece up to 0.1 via your runes. Or you can always just sell all of your runes, souls and relics, and eventually just sell your tier 4 weapon or tier 4 armor while getting all the loot and the money from the dungeons or whatever form of content you're doing, and just buy the next tier up either way. One big thing I would recommend before getting onto the cross area is I would recommend you click on the cog up in the top right, click game settings, go to social. So generally you'll be on general, go to social, scroll down to about invitations, and auto deny guild invitations. The reason why I say do that is because when you're in starter zones, a lot of people do spam invite new players into their guilds, and that is to potato farm them in a sense, because they will have high taxes but not help out that new player in any way and just spam invite new players all day long. So I'd recommend doing this, so that way then you will never actually get bothered by any of these little scumbags trying to invite you into a guild. And when you actually finally find some friends that you want to play with, or a guild that you actually want to join, you will go back into the cog, you'll click game settings, go down to social right here, you'll scroll down to the invitations part, and then you'll just turn that off, and then people can invite you into their guilds. Now, one thing I would recommend as well, before going any further, is pick up your gear, go on your donkey, and if you click M on your map, you will see 3 roads coming off, right? If we click N, there are 3 roads coming from here. This is the way that every map is going to be, right? You've got your southeast, southwest, your northwest, and your northeast exits. So there's never just like a northern exit or a southern exit. It's always on the edge of the map. So as you can see, northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest exits. What I would recommend doing is, obviously, as you can see, if we go northwest, we'll end up into Stagborn, and if we go northwest again, we'll end up into the main city of this portion of the Royal Continent, which, as you can see, if you click on there, there is a lot more going on there. There's higher tier crafting stations, but they do have fees, as you can see, a usage fee for users, which is what will be usage fee for associates, which are generally guild members and alliance members. But obviously, generally, if you do look around, as you can see, that's 8%, this one's 8%. Generally, they'll be around the same price. The ones around the outer edge will generally be on the lower percentage of usage. But anyway, we're going to end up traveling over into Limhurst, and that is where there is the artifact foundry that you can use your runes, your souls, and your relics at to enchant the items from 4 flat to 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. You can also do this on any tier armor or weapon. So tier 5 can go to 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. Tier 6 can go to 6.1, 6.2, 6.3. But you do need the same tier souls, runes, and relics as the armor piece or weapon that you are trying to upgrade. So if you had a tier 5 weapon, you need tier 5 runes. If you have a tier 6 weapon, you need tier 6 runes. Now, depending on whether it's 2-hand, 1-hand, boots, helmet, cape, chest piece, all depends on how many runes, souls, and relics it will cost to upgrade to the next tier. I will show you once we get into Limhurst. Just keep following the road northwest and we'll eventually end. So now that we are in Limhurst, it may be a bit laggy because as you can see there are tons of people within the city. If you do click map, click on M, your map. The main reason why I'd recommend you leaving the forest crossing coming up to Limhurst, because as you can see here, these little Roman numerals besides the actual color of the zone and the name is what tier zone these areas are going to be. Obviously, generally to begin with, you will probably end up using Stagborn to begin with, right, to level up or do solo dungeons or kill mobs, because they're going to be around your level, right? But as you can see, tier 3, so there's a maximum of tier 3, so tier 2, tier 3 resources. This is a tier 4 zone, so it'll be tier 2 to tier 4. This is a tier 5 zone, which is tier 3 to tier 5 materials, and a higher chance of having enchanted material. The thing is, so your blue zones, which are obviously, as you can see here, blue, they are fully safe zones. Your yellow zones are tier 5, which are, people can fight you, right? But that is only if they dismount and they click this shield up at the top to hard flag. Never do this because that allows people to attack you within the yellow zones and red zones. You never want to go into a red zone until you know what you're doing with PvP wise and escaping gankers and whatnot, because you will lose your loot in a red zone, but people will probably just down you within the yellow zone if you do see a red name. People don't generally flag up in a yellow zone though, just because there's a lot of blue people in there that aren't flagged that will generally just group up on these people that are flagged up. All that will happen in this yellow zone is you'll get knocked down for 2 minutes, you'll get back up with like a shield for about 10 seconds, where then you could just mount up and ride off either way. So you don't need to worry about the yellow zones or the blue zones whatsoever, because they are safe zones. But these red zones here, which are tier 6 and tier 7, you generally don't want to be going into as a new player with no clue on what you were doing in the game. The reason why I say Limhurst, it's a central hub to really decent zones, where you can then go find like tier 5 solo dungeons, tier 4 and tier 3 solo dungeons, and get decent resources as you level. Now, if we click N to open up the map, we'll zoom in, and if you hover over, here is a repair bench. This is generally the symbol for the repair bench, and this is the artifact foundry. This is the place that you will go to upgrade, enchant your gear from 4 flat to 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, etc. This is where your exhibition master is, where we'll be doing some PvE, which I will show you and explain what that is in a different episode. This is your marketplace. This here is a travel planner. If you come to this guy here, which is like a compass in your map, you can actually fast travel to the other cities on the map. And obviously you have your island planner, which obviously you can't use until you get premium. There's your marketplace, which is the hammer, and your bank, which obviously you just go down this little part into the bank and deposit whatever you need to. The thing is about banks, in each city, they are city personal, if that makes sense. So say if I was to put gear in this bank within Limhurst, if I was to then go over to Fort Sterling, I will not be able to pick up any of the stuff that I have put inside of my Limhurst bank when I'm in Fort Sterling. So it is bank orientated. Either way, we got sidetracked. Here is the little artifact foundry. If you click on the guy or the hammer part, you'll see all this. You don't really need to worry about all of this, but you can do some form of gambling where you melt, I would say melt, even though it says melt. You melt down runes, souls, and artifacts for a chance to get any of these artifacts, which these artifacts go into weapons or go into armor pieces. As you can see, this is used to craft adept siege bows. This is to do grove keepers, bear paws, etc. Obviously, each little category has different ones, but you can choose to meld them. I wouldn't recommend it unless you know what you're doing and you know the chances, and you don't really care about losing your rune souls or relics. But as a new player, we do not want to do this, so stay away from that. That's just for future reference. You click salvage, which you don't want to do either, but this one right here where it says enchant, you can drop your armor piece in there. I can't drop this in there, but once you get a tier 4 armor piece or weapon, it will allow you to drop it into here, and then it will tell you specifically how many runes, souls or relics it will cost to enchant that armor piece up to that next tier, and show you the difference in item power. We'll go back to the destiny board. You click B to open up your destiny board, and up in this top right hand corner you will see combat fame credits, you will see learning points, you'll see auto respec. This auto respec you don't need to worry about or turn on at all until you get a armor piece or a weapon maxed out to 100, because it won't actually do anything up until at least one weapon or armor piece is up to 100. If you wanted to as well, I would recommend going through each armor piece and obviously just checking out the stats and just checking out the abilities. Generally the first two abilities on the leather chest pieces will be the same. The one that changes is this third one. That's included on the helmets and on the weapons. Generally on weapons it will be the Q, the third ability on the Q. Let's scroll down to tier 6. Obviously you can see all of them. Generally all your Qs are the same, generally all the Ws are the same, and it will be generally just this E ability that will change on the weapons. Now combat fame credits, what this is once you hit 100 on any of these weapons, armor pieces, the XP that you gain from wearing these armors or weapons will then go into your fame credit pool, which then obviously once you level up a weapon or a thingy up to at least level 1, you can actually click on this part here. Obviously I can't right now because I haven't actually unlocked the shields or anything to be able to show you right now, but you'll be able to click on this and then another box will appear and it will show you how much it will cost to level up, or it will show you how much fame is required to level up this item piece each level, and that's where your fame credits come in. And the auto respec is basically once you get an item up to level 100 and you hit this auto respec, basically you would only be getting about 20% of the fame as fame credits if you was not using auto respec. But if you are using auto respec, it will cost 1 silver per fame or something like that. I don't know the conversion rate, but you will be paying silver to increase the percentage of fame credits you will be getting from them armor pieces or weapons into your fame credits pool. So be careful with that. I generally don't use it unless I have a lot of silver and I'm just looking to rinse the fuck out of fame credits to then put into a different armor piece or a different weapon, or even into the spec of an armor piece or weapon. So that is the first video of this series that we're going to be going over. I know there was quite a lot, you know, I just really want to help out you new guys. Just take your time, rewatch the video, have a look at specific parts. I know that I'm not the most structured person when it comes to explaining things. I do apologize that. If there is anything else that you guys actually want to see or me to explain about, I'm more than happy to. I think in the next episode we're going to be going over the forms of content that you can be doing to gain fame, to gain silver, and different sorts of gear and how you will go about doing them. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate all of you boys. I'm out this bitch show. Peace.